Hey everybody, Tony Caldwell. I get to be your instructor, facilitator, course guide, kind of the guy that grades the papers for this term. And if I'm right, we're in HIS 605, Cold War and American Empire, which I taught this a few times, and to me it's a pretty cool course. It's a part of history that we look back on with some nostalgia, the 50s, 60s, 70s, happy days, and all those kinds of TV shows make it seem like the perfect nuclear family living in the suburbs, white picket fence. Uh, Everything was great in America. And there was a lot of great stuff in America. We had just come out of World War II, the biggest conflict we'd ever been in up to the time, most expensive mobilization of American soldiers, sailors, airmen. Well, not quite airmen at the time, they came a little bit later, Marines and whatnot. And America had really emerged as a superpower. A lot of good stuff came with that, and some things we prefer to overlook. And that's kind of where we're headed for the next 10 weeks or so, is into some of the aspects of America really getting on her feet as a world power and as one of the two major world powers. As we start to see Britain and France and those other countries kind of descend a little bit out of power, and America and the Soviet Union stepping in to fill the gap in that vacuum. So, pretty good. Taking a look at the course list, see a lot of familiar names, and that makes me happy because it's really easy to kind of reconnect with some of you based on the work we've done in the past and see all the great ideas that you had in other classes come here and how we kind of translate and tweak some of those. If you have had me before, you know this, or should by now. And if you haven't, kind of need to get you up to speed real quick. I am really rubric centric, and I say that in my announcements. I will often say that to you in the grading, and I'm saying it here. So, what does that mean? By rubric centric, I mean I look at the rubric, have a copy of it out when I'm reading your work and evaluating it, and when I'm marking your scores. So, if there is something in the rubric that is not in your paper, that's going to show up in your final grade. Okay? So I always encourage students to have that rubric out when you're working. Don't just get that one flash of brilliance and just run down that path. Because if there's something in there that you're supposed to be covering and you're not, like I said, it'll show up. And students always come back and say, well, I thought I covered it. Okay, we can have that conversation one-on-one and we can look at that. And if you can make a good case and I can see it the second time around, awesome. I'm more than happy to readjust on that. But I do want to really stress that you got to get it in there. If it's in that rubric, it's there for a reason. They're trying to drive your learning in that direction. And that comes to your writing as well. I'm not good at grammar, not at all. I have about 3 different grammar tools on my Chromebook to keep me right. So that's really not what I'm talking about. But when it comes time to kind of focus in, you really need to focus in. And no matter how great your ideas are and you'd love to run 25, 30 pages for an analysis paper, don't. If it says 3 to 5 pages, do 3 to 5 pages. Get your editing hat on and cut it down to the most important, most critical points to cover the topic. And I think there's enough to be said about that. I always like to use the rubrics as outline. And if you do that, I don't think you'll get too far off course. Speaking of outlines, we've got one of those in this course. It's week 7. You actually have to write an outline of your final paper. Students seem to struggle with that at the graduate level. I don't understand why, but so I'm giving you fair warning now. That's coming in week 7. If you have problems with outlines, reach out to me prior to the assignment and we can help with that. We've got, 3 book reviews this time, a historiographical final essay, week 9, obviously, Topic proposals are due in week 2, so start thinking about that right now. Week 5 is standard bibliography. Got a couple of analysis papers going on. In week 10, and we'll talk more about this as we get there, week 10, your project is to turn in a PowerPoint with embedded audio. That's audio that plays by itself along with your presentation. If IT is not your thing and you're not good with computers, completely understand and get it, start thinking about that now and start mentally preparing and figuring that part out, because that's a big chunk of the grade for the term, and it's a pretty cool project, and I think you'll see that as it goes. But anyway, that's kind of an overview of where we're headed. m.caldwell@snhu.edu is the email. Feel free to reach out for it any time. If we need some one-on-one sessions, I always set those up over Google Meet as needed, so we can do that as well. I think that's kind of it for the day. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoy the course. And if you need anything, reach out. I'll see you on the discussion boards. Thanks.